Blog post for November 27, 2024. Telling too much, asking too little. Written and read by Barbara Dickinson. This is a particular favorite topic of mine. I have begun to notice a certain kind of felt sense that arises in a conversation where one or both of the speakers are only telling, not asking. I am a storyteller. I love to tell stories. Sometimes my stories are entertaining. Sometimes they are disturbing. The problem is, sometimes they are not welcome. Why? Well, for one thing, I did not ask the listener if they wanted to hear a story. For another thing, I may be telling a story that occurred to me after listening to the other person. In interactive focusing, we practice empathic listening. In all the forms of focusing I know, we are listening to sense exactly how it is for the other person, so that we can accurately and empathically reflect. We are not in it for our own stories. We are not even in it for our own feelings. We cannot do this if our body is poised to tell our own story as soon as the person we are listening to takes a breath. The next time you are engaged in a conversation, see if you can notice how much telling and how much asking or even reflecting is going on in the conversation. Why asking? The answer is complicated. Isn't everything? In the first place, asking a question such as, "Can you tell me more?" is a way to express genuine interest in what the other person is saying and what else they might want to say. In the second place, a question like, "And how did that feel for you?" gives the speaker an opportunity to go deeper into their story and their felt sense of it. But in the third place, a question like, "Would you like to hear about a time something similar happened to me?" is bringing attention back to what the listener wants to say instead of deepening the topic for the speaker. Questions can be tricky. A long time ago, I had a big wake-up call when someone that I knew quite well at work and was even friends with on the outside gave me some feedback. She had just told me something dramatic that was unfolding in her life. As was my habit back then, I took her topic and turned it into my own. I was completely unaware I was doing this. In an outburst of frustration, she said, "You take everything I say and make it about you." This was long before I had any focusing skills. I was shocked and hurt. I have since learned that when I am shocked and hurt by another person's description of me, it's usually because there is more than a grain of truth to it. That was the case here. I was in the unconscious habit of talking about myself. It was almost a superpower the way I was able to turn anything anyone said into a story about me. Thank goodness for focusing, and especially interactive focusing. Through these two methods, I have learned to really listen to another person. I'm far from perfect, but at least I know that the habit deserves lifelong practice. If you'd like to try a little exercise in pursuit of this awareness, take any conversation that you experience during the coming week and notice how much telling is there and how much asking or reflecting is there. If you have a person close to you that you can speak with frankly, you could even mention this to them and make an agreement to partner in noticing the content of your conversations. I do not recommend calling anyone out on too much telling. That certainly did not feel good when it happened to me. But with someone I trust, who I know to be compassionate, being able to say, "Oops, I notice that I am starting to tell instead of to ask you about what you just said," might set my feet on the path to healthier conversations. Seen on a road sign. For this blog post's episode of Seen on a Road Sign, we have an excerpt from Janet Klein's book, Empathic Felt Sense Listening and Focusing, a workbook for learning and teaching. Copyright 1995 by Janet Klein, pages 70 to 72. This is a helpful follow-on to our discussions in the last blog post about conflict and empathic listening, as well as today's discussion about telling versus asking. In this excerpt, Janet recounts a conversation she had with a longtime friend who had stopped showing any interest in what Janet had to say, only telling about himself and his projects. You can read the entire excerpt at the bottom of this blog post. Changes meetings for exploring interaction. New watch parties. We had our first successful watch party at the Changes meeting for exploring interaction on Sunday, November 24th. We are watching 15-minute chapters of the interactive focusing video starring Drs. Janet Klein and Mary McGuire, produced by Nada Liu. If you cannot make a Changes meeting to join us for watch party, you can purchase the video by following this link. Up next, in our next post, we will take a look at interactive focusing, holidays, and family, exploring Janet Klein's book for teachers. Inside Me Stories, Something is Happening Inside Me, is where she relates teaching the skills of focusing to students to the early days of social and emotional learning programs and the work of Daniel Goleman, author of Emotional Intelligence. Questions? If any of this prompts a question or comment, we would love to hear from you. Use our contact form at the bottom of the page to reach out. Until next time, our monthly virtual Changes meeting for exploring interaction schedule and registration is here. Watch our demonstration of interactive focusing with Sandy and Barbara here. Read more about exploring interaction here. Resources about interactive focusing are found here. You can read the latest from Sandy about SmartView conversations here. Read Sandy's latest blog post on how relational neuroscience complements focusing.